Welcome back to the channel. This is a clip from the Lab Management Simulation Module 10 for the Continuing Education of Lab Director Certification. This is approved for 2 credits by the AAFP. If you are interested in gaining credits for this, click the link in the description. And now let's begin. Some quick overview over the objectives. We may apply the comprehensive knowledge of multifaceted laboratory scenario, highlighting the interconnectedness, how personnel, QC, and compliance intersect, as well as summarizing critical lessons and actionable strategies from the course. As always, I am CLIA Lab Director. I have been in CLIA laboratories for over 10 years now, and I have been through competencies, been through many inspections, and hope that you gain a lot from this course.
All right, let's dive in. Step one is to address the personnel challenges. What immediate actions should the lab director take to ensure uninterrupted workflow? How should the competency gap be addressed long term? Some relevant modules include Module 2, Lab Director Delegation and Ethical Responsibilities, and Module 3, Competency Assessment and Training. So initially, I'm going to go over reviewing the competency records, audit training and assessment records for all staff. So dig in and get a good root cause, get a good baseline for what is currently the competency level of your staff. Identify gaps in evaluations or certifications. If the competency is not as thorough as it could be, maybe there's opportunities for improvement. There aren't technically strict guidelines for competency, so there's some things that have to be evaluated, but there's not a strict checklist of, hey, this has to be accomplished by certain staff members. You kind of set that, or the laboratory sets it, and so maybe that's not strict enough for the personnel that are currently filling the role. Immediate actions. Conduct a competency assessment for the senior lab technician. Pair with a mentor or supervisor for retraining as needed. All right, so the senior lab technician, obviously they've been there, they've gone through competency, so that's why it's important to identify the gaps, because clearly there's something not being addressed, or something simply not being adhered to. So either the SOP is not clear enough, or the training wasn't clear enough. So either way, something needs to be improved, and pair with a mentor or a supervisor. So pair up with somebody who knows what they're doing, who has the process like down 100%, and pair them up so they can get an idea. Strictly speaking, by pairing them up, either one, they'll learn by observation what they should be doing, or two, your supervisor or mentor, even more senior staff, can help identify what it is that the lab technician is doing incorrectly. Some long-term solutions. Implement a standardized schedule for regular competency evaluations. This is for all staff, so don't just narrow in on the senior staff, and do your competency for everyone. I like something like this. So obviously annual competency is required. I would say do a test system every quarter, every month if you need to right away, just to show within 6 months I would have their competency done for the next annual period. Use a tracking system to ensure no assessments are missed. And communication and morale. Address concerns with transparency and support. Make sure it's clear that we're trying to show competency and we're trying to make sure the staff is trained. We're not trying to throw anybody under the bus. We're not trying to blame anybody. We're just trying to improve the overall quality of the laboratory. And emphasize the importance of professional growth for the individual in the lab. Think of this as an opportunity to grow. This is an opportunity to identify your weaknesses and identify areas that need to be improved, and an opportunity to improve them. We're giving this opportunity for the technician to improve, not only in the workplace, but professionally. This is an opportunity to learn. This could be a turning point in their career, to be frank. Regulatory compliance. Ensure documentation aligns with CLIA requirements. Prepare records for inspection review. Timely and effective management of personnel challenges builds a foundation for overall lab quality and compliance while fostering a culture of accountability and growth. It's important to maintain staff morale as well as regulatory compliance. If you need to, you can go back to Module 3, and that will help give you some ideas for building long-term solutions. I would say that I would consider doing proactive planning as a long-term solution to prevent similar actions from happening in the laboratory. Step 2, troubleshooting the QC issues. How do you determine the root cause of QC failures? What corrective actions should be implemented? Some relevant modules. Module 5, QC programs and troubleshooting. Module 6, validation principles to verify corrective measures. Some actions. Identify the problem. Review QC logs to pinpoint anomalies. Verify if equipment calibration is up to date. And cross-check reagent lot numbers and expiration dates. So it's important when troubleshooting QC, you're going to have to look back. You look back at your data, and you check out your QC, see how QC log, like your 11 Jenny chart, see if there's any trends, see if it's something that maybe you can come close to failing before. Maybe there's a trend in there. Maybe it's been trending slowly down. Make sure that your calibration is up to date. What that means is your PM. So make sure that if the preventative maintenance is scheduled to be done soon, maybe it needs a maintenance, maybe more cleaning. Maybe the 3-month maintenance is almost up, and that needs to be updated to a 2-month maintenance. Maybe it's not 2-month cleaning. Maybe it's not happening regularly enough. And cross-check your reagent lot numbers and expiration dates. Make sure that we're not using a new lot or we're not using an expired lot. Maybe there's a reagent. All of a sudden, we started using this reagent lot, and that's when the QC issues started happening. So maybe there's something wrong with the QC lot. So immediate actions. Halt testing in affected areas to prevent erroneous results. Rerun QC samples to confirm the issue. And notify the lab director and supervisor of findings. Remember, oftentimes you cannot run and guarantee 100% you cannot release reports without a passing QC. If you're doing a screening on clinical chemistry or toxicology, you cannot run without a passing QC. You cannot run samples. If your QC is within batch, so like a toxicology extraction or some kind of molecular PCR testing, then you cannot release those results, and the results need to be reprocessed, which is going to be a cost. Reprocessing is going to be definitely a cost in there. So it's important to identify why QC failed in those instances, because all those samples are going to be rerun with a passing QC. So it's important to identify what failed with the QC so they can pass the second time, especially if you're going to rerun stuff. Some root cause analysis. Inspect environmental factors, temperature, humidity. Check your logs. Check to make sure that everything was in spec. Make sure that we didn't have any kind of electrical fluctuations, temperature fluctuations, because the instrumentation does have very specific humidity, temperature, and humidity requirements. And if it's outside of those, then maybe that could be an issue of why your QC is failing. Check for procedural deviations during sample processing. Make sure that the samples are being processed the way they're supposed to be. Maybe there's something happened. Maybe a sample got switched. Maybe a QC got switched. Maybe you ran QC1, which QC2 is supposed to be. Consult manufacturer guidelines for troubleshooting instrument errors. It's always important to, whenever you have an issue and you can't identify right away what the issue is, if you rerun the QC and you still can't seem to get it to work, contact the manufacturer because they may have some extra troubleshooting ideas. Implement corrective actions. Replace faulty reagents or recalibrate instruments. Retrain staff on proper QC problems if the area is linked to handling. So identify what the issues are and then implement a corrective action. Documentation and follow-up. Record all findings and actions taken in the QC logs. Monitor QC performance in the next testing cycle to ensure the resolution. Prepare a report summarizing the incidents for internal audits and inspections. In instances like these, you always need to have some kind of incident report because patient testing was impacted. Especially if you halt testing, or if you have to rerun samples, then you need to write an incident report because that impacted your testing and therefore impacted results. Effective troubleshooting of QC issues minimizes disruptions, maintains test accuracy, and demonstrates a commitment to quality and compliance. If you want to, you can dig back to Module 5 and review the quality control and proficiency testing principles. It's important that when you stop a test, the QC deviations are detected to maintain lab integrity, that you document. I would always encourage laboratories staff to have a culture of vigilance and continuous improvement in the QC processes. The QC is there for us to gather data and for us to dig into our assays. So it's important to do something with that data. Data that's collected and not done anything with is pointless. So it's important to understand that we're not just running these QCs just for the fun of it. These are QCs aren't just so that we can report patient samples. This is basically the pulse of our laboratory, of our testing capabilities. The QC tells us the health. It is the test. It is just like we're doing a diagnostic test for the patients. This is a diagnostic test for our laboratory. This is telling